Everybody, David Solomon here from the Rant Network. I'm in my office in downtown Montreal waiting for my friend Stuart to join us, who's been caught up in a meeting right now, and we're hoping that he'll join us very soon. The issue today, folks, is just unbelievable what's been going on. Is yesterday the Biden administration announced what they meant by this whole notion of forcing vaccinations. Corporate America is now really obligated, which is crazy to believe that this is the obligation that companies of 100 or more employees will have until January 4th to ensure that all of their workers are either fully vaccinated or there's a weekly testing and mandatory policy, in place. Now, the Biden administration, they announced this in September, and yesterday, the Labor Department, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, released the rest of the details that came along with that. So now, any company with more than 100 employees has to force their staff, their team, to be fully vaccinated, weekly testing, which costs money, and mandatory masking. Now, sorry, folks, just ran into a bad connection there. Apologies. Thank you very much for staying on. So let's get back to the situation at here. As I said before, a football player, Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers, he lied. Well, he told everybody he's immunized. And his notion was that the players were not forced to be vaccinated, but were told that they should be vaccinated, or they won't be playing, or whatever. And we saw the reaction. What happened was is that he ended up with COVID. He may have infected his teammates and other players, and he was very careless about it. And the anger was he doesn't want to be vaccinated. He doesn't want to be forced to be vaccinated. The opposite. He wants to just go on. So is he going to lose his job? He's one of the most prominent football players out there. Well, should he lose his job? He doesn't want mandatory testing, but that's part of the policies. He doesn't want to wear a mask. So what's going to happen then? Where is this going to go? And unfortunately, the Biden administration has really turned the screws again. They've turned the screws again on the business world. Now it's on the employer to pay to make it happen. It's insane. It's insane. It's so unfortunate what's happening here. So the question then becomes is what is there to do? What can be done? What should be done? And you know what? It's really crazy to think that the Biden administration is forcing companies with 100 employees to get vaccinated. I think that the mistake here is there's got to be an encouragement. There has to be a way to make this happen. Now, there are those who will tell you right now that there's nothing one you could do. We have to do it. We have to vaccinate it. It's the only way out. But the truth of the matter is that that's not true. That there are other options out there. But the Biden administration wants to go down the vaccine route. Is it because of the companies that he's paying for these billions and billions of dollars to spend on vaccinations, and that he's going to go ahead and he has to keep them in business? Because right now there are other drugs and there are other opportunities and there are other options that are coming out. So now when you have a population in the United States, about 60%, 65, 70% who may have gotten vaccinated, what do you do with the rest? And we said it, a little bit before, is that now if you're going to tell businesses that they're now responsible to force employees to get vaccinated, that's a problem. This can't be put on the shoulders of the employer. It's ridiculous. It's unfair. But that's right now the way the Biden administration works. I'm going to get involved in your life. I'm going to make you miserable. I know, John, you're saying it's not that high, but the rate of vaccinations actually has, depending on the state, I'm not saying nationally, but depending on the state, I know, I'll tell you, in Canada right now, we're running at an over 80% rate of vaccination. It's a fascinating thing here. It's amazing to see how many people have been vaccinated, and yet you still have many who refuse to be vaccinated. The notion of the herd immunity that we've heard right now is crazy. Stuart, I've been here for the last 6 minutes. Thanks for joining back. But I got to tell
Hey,
let me just finish the thought here, is that this notion of herd immunity, we were told that if you were 85% like everybody's 85 vaccinated, this COVID thing is going to go away. It's not going away, folks. We still have cases, thousands of cases every day with a high degree of it. Now they're saying it's the kids, and once we vaccinate the kids, it'll be fine. Stuart, I think that we've gone off the rails again. The Biden administration forcing us, the businesses, to now do the job of the government.
okay. So, David, I apologize to our listeners, viewers, and you. For whatever reason, it wouldn't let me get to the studio. So I'm
Put
on
it
a
this way:
guest phone.
the stream got disconnected, by the way. So thanks for everybody who stayed on.
How many times do you have to be lied to?
Wow.
John, let me start off here. The Biden administration, amongst many other administrations, are trying to force a population to a never ending set of rules. What do I mean, never ending? Normally, you have a start date and runs until date. So the Biden administration went to OSHA to use and weaponize OSHA to force any corporation in the United States jurisdiction that has 100 employees or more to force them to vaccinate, to test, to wear masks, and let me give you one more. The employer is responsible if they get vaccinated for unrestricted amounts of time off that employee may need to adjust to being vaccinated. Now, what is interesting, the start date is November, but there's no end date.
Nope.
Now, you're right. The government promised herd immunity. The government made all these promises. And at the end of the day, none of this follows any science. Now, if you go before the election in the United States, it was all about the science. So now when the science isn't in their favor, well, then it's another excuse. You see, the big thing about politics on the left is let's have the narrative and let's fill in the blanks with things that make sense so you can follow along. And it's not herd immunity, it's herd stupidity.
Well, you know what's crazy, Stuart? And again, let me remind everybody that both Stuart and I are double vaccinated. So it's not like we're at the anti-vax. But you know what, John? You're right. It was never about the science. It's about the political science. It has always been about the political science. And I don't care what border, where you're sitting on, which border side you're on, your side, my side. It's always been about the politics, because the inconsistencies that we've been hearing from the government is just extraordinary. And I'm telling you, as a country that was in confinement, I had a curfew through the last winter. It was insane what they tried to do. Now this whole thing of I got to walk around with a vaccine passport. I can't go on an airplane in Canada without a pass proving I'm double vaccinated. I cannot go into a restaurant without proving I'm double vaccinated. I can't go to a movie without doing it. I can't play hockey if I get, and it's on and on and on. So your hands are tied and are forced. But what I don't like about what's going on, Stuart, is that OSHA is now going into businesses. They're going to do the bidding for the Biden administration. Now you're telling employers, not only do you have to pay like the insurance and everything else, but now go make sure that everybody's vaccinated, pay for their vaccinations where necessary, even though it may be free, but testing costs money, masks cost money, and it's all going to end up being on the shoulders of the companies that Mr. Biden claims that he needs to save.
David, yes, and I couldn't have said it any better. The reality is, at the end of the day, this is not coming to an end anytime soon. And if the Biden administration has any more legs to walk down the street with, it's going to have you on a leash because you're the one that's going to be walked down the street. By wearing a mask, forcing people to do things that they don't want to do is no different. I'm sorry, David, you're going to get all heated debate than wearing a yellow star on a jacket. And I'm going to tell you it's a scarlet's letter, which would be another terminology. And society, as the Biden administration wants you to believe, is an us versus them. And if you're not on our side, then you're on their side. Their side originally began as white supremacists, but now, with the current winners of the Virginia electoral, as the gubernatorial race is now Republican, the new head legal for Virginia is a black woman. And now she's part of the Klan. I can't tell you that they assume everyone in the world is stupid. And I think all the independents that hated Trump and were given all kinds of false stories to hate him even more, I think they're crybabies. And you know what? They're now paying the
Well,
price.
you know what? I'm going to tell you, it's. I mean, listen, I'm tired of the double standard. I've told you, this whole thing's been politicized. And when you mentioned the yellow star, I actually got like really annoyed. But the longer I listened to you, the more I realized is that this is a new form of discrimination, and this is what it's going to end up being. And it's like, yes, I understand that the idea was let's vaccinate everybody, let's make everybody feel good. But now you're hearing this so-called science coming out and saying, and I heard that this morning, actually this week, I should say, on a local radio station. Guess what? COVID's not going away. It's
I
going to be
got
part.
another one for you.
It's got to be. Hold on.
Notice I told you England is now released a pill. Merck.
Yeah. No, listen. The pill. There are pills. There's all
Hey,
kinds of
man.
things that are coming up. But
Hey,
it's not.
man.
But listen,
Hey,
right?
I
They're
feel
talking.
sick. I take a pill. Bye-bye like
Stuart,
Tamiflu.
Stuart, Stuart. We're hearing now that Pfizer and Moderna are working on a combined flu shot. And COVID thing. We're going to end up. This is going to be part of. From what they're saying, this is going to be part of our DNA going forward. So the no. So what are we going to do? Are we gonna? To me, the whole thing that upsets me is like give people the choice. I understand. And you're saying, well, we're going to stop the spread. If everybody gets vaccinated, we stop the spread. Well, it's proven that it doesn't work exactly that way. It limits, it doesn't eliminate. And there's a big difference between the two statements. And John, it's in terms of what you're getting at. That is about the money, and that's why I go back to the political science. It's not at all. It's no longer about doing the right thing. It's about the
And,
money.
and
And Risa, you know what you said
Lisa's
right
right.
now? Hold on. It's not about fully vaccinated. Only means that I've got the two vax. Because at one point, and you see this in the United States, its efficacy is dropping after a certain period of time. We saw this in Israel. People have to get their third. We're going to be a couple of months away this winter. I wouldn't be surprised if that is
But
where they're
what's
going to force us to
interesting
go.
is the hospitalization rate. And I want to challenge all our doctor friends that tune in and listen who are very pro vaccination, and I'm not
Yep.
anti vaccination. But the bottom line is the people being rolled into the hospitals are unvaccinated people.
Not true. That's not true. And I'm going to tell you that I had that conversation with a couple of people who work with immunocompromised people, and that's not exactly what's happening. So let's
But
be
that's
careful
not the
about that.
statistic. That's
No,
not the
well,
statistic.
yeah, be careful about statistics, Stuart, because the statistics about COVID deaths are also off, and people with COVID are off because everybody who went into a hospital was they had COVID because the government paid for it in full. We know this game is a monetary game, and this is all it really is. So I can't believe that a lot of the statistics. What this whole point of this whole thing is that right now the impact is the following: we have a labor shortage, and people are going to end up losing money because they can't find people because no one is going to go to work. They're going to stay home, and we're going to have a different problem. I just want you to know that the forced vaccinations they tried in Ontario and Quebec for the health care, they threatened them that if by November 15th they weren't fully vaccinated, they would lose their licenses. Quebec and Ontario pulled back. They said they couldn't afford it because they were going to lose too many nurses and
Look,
doctors. It's
we're at
going to
corner arc,
happen.
but I got to tell you one thing. I was watching a video on online about it's a very famous guy. He takes fancy cars and drives them. He got pulled over by the cops near Newport
Yep.
Beach, California, on a Lamborghini. They
Hmm.
had 3 or 4 cop cars trying to write him a ticket from a guy from Alberta. He was threatened about not having a California driver's license, being in the state more than 10 days, and then he gets pulled over driving his Lamborghini. That the sound level is against the law. Okay, this is what's
Wow.
important to Californians.
Stuart. We know that California's off the rails. What can I tell you? Folks, we're done. It's another week. It's another bit of fun. I want to thank you all very much for joining us this week. We love the feedback. We love the commentary. As you can see, I'm sitting here in my office. There's people walking by me and all these fun stuff. So look, we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Catch you here on the other end on Monday.